Newcastle away, Wednesday night, Carabao Cup. Did you go? Feel a bit stupid now? Chelsea, pathetic. One shot on target, non-existent XG, whatever that is. And we've played fewer through balls this season than we've had injuries. Speaking of which, Solanke is back on the grass. Kulu isn't back on the grass. Maddison's nowhere near the grass. And Bergvall looked like he'd smoked some grass. Simmons, we're hoping he'll be more Modric than Timo, but it's not looking promising. We'll chat about him. Spence and Van de Ven misbehaving. What were they up to? Brennan's mind seems to be on his January loan. And Vicario is the only one saving us from humiliation at the moment. Now, not that wonderful. Copenhagen on Tuesday. Surgeons, Man United on Saturday at the stupid time of 12:30. And then we've got the international break. Having broken the hoodoo, surely we will thrash them. That and lots of nonsense coming your way over the next hour or so. It's nice one, Cyril. Nice one, Cyril. So, welcome to the show. We've got, as ever, Spurs royalty, Julie Welch, with us, and ever cheerful, Kevin Acott. And, well, we're not cheerful, are we? Kevin, I tell you what, let's start with Newcastle, because amazingly, it gets worse from there. We had Kinski in goal. We've been crying out for a bit of Kinski. Brennan, I don't know, he seems to have completely checked out. Simmons struggling. What did you make of that performance?
It already feels like about 6 months ago.
It does, yeah.
Because the Chelsea performance was so bad that I'm looking back with some fondness, actually, to the Newcastle failure. I don't know. It was like a sort of minor Chelsea. So we were poor. He set us up wrong. We never looked like we had a chance, really. A bit insipid. But, yeah, you just think, Carabao Cup, that's fine. That's fine. So it felt like I was sort of over it in 24 hours and, let's move on from here. It didn't feel that depressing. It was a poor performance, but all right, let's move on.
Someone said to me today, actually, that it felt like we were okay between the boxes, but shit in both boxes, which actually was quite a nice summing up, because I thought we moved the ball around quite well, relatively well, given how bad we've been. Julie, what did you make of that performance?
I was thinking about Lads, It's Tottenham, all that sort of nice and tidy stuff that we used to do several decades ago. And as my old games mistress would say, there was no oomph, absolutely no oomph. I mean, if you're going back to Newcastle, the Newcastle debacle, that they're a very intense team, even when they're playing badly as they did against West Ham, lots of muscle, stuff like that. We're just feeble, limp. I can't be bothered to watch them. I can't. I just don't know what's gone wrong. Chelsea, I mean, Frank was out-thought by Iraola, by Emery, and by Maresca. And I think I may have observed to you that I am getting very strong AVB vibes. It's the hair, the scribbling in the notepad, all that sort of stuff. It's happened very early. I mean, AVB's first season at Spurs was saved because he had Gareth Bale. We have no Gareth Bale. We have nobody near Gareth Bale. I despair of Simmons. He doesn't fit in at all. I don't know what's going to happen. As for Randall Kolo Muani, I think I've got his name right. I mean, what's he doing? Is he just sort of keeping fit, doing a bit of training before he goes back to PSG? I have no idea. It's all suddenly gone very, very wrong. I mean, I look back with nostalgia to Ange's first season and that Chelsea performance, the high line, everybody getting injured, Romero getting red carded. It was just such a fantastic game, even though it ended very badly. It was so fantastic that nobody left. We actually applauded at the end because it was such a fight. Where has all that fight gone? I don't know. It's just sort of limp and wanky, basically.
It was limp and wanky. I mean, I think just sticking with Newcastle briefly, Kinski looked to me. I mean, we've been crying out to have a look at the guy. He looked to me to be a bit slow getting down to first goal or getting across to it. And second goal, he was, let's see. Well, I mean, that was Mr. Flappy too, wasn't it? It wasn't a convincing performance. At the same time, he doesn't play much, and it must be difficult coming into the cauldron of St. James's Park and suddenly, expect him to be phenomenal. I mean, his kicking's great, but makes you, I mean, given that Vicario has been our saviour for about, he saved us from drubbings for the last few matches, really. I mean, do we now feel, well, okay, it's Vicario and we hope it stays that way now?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely hope he stays fit. I think I wouldn't completely write off Kinski. I think, I mean, obviously we don't have any more Carabao Cup matches, but maybe one or two meaningless Champions League sort of matches, it would be worth bringing him in and just keeping him as part of the team. He made one horrible mistake against Newcastle, but I think it's okay. I think he's okay as a backup. I hope he's not used too much, but it's like, I'm trying to be positive here.
Well, I mean, I'm sort of pining for Alfie Whiteman, who has quietly retired, having played half a game. I mean, one thing we can say for Alfie Whiteman, he's a very bright guy with lots of interests outside football, and he's very good looking. And I think for those reasons alone, we should have just told him, give him a contract and say, look, make your films, do your photography, but just hang about, because we're not sure about Kinski right now. Let's focus a bit more then, because I think I said to you, Kev, before the Newcastle match that I wasn't all that excited about it. It felt like a free hit, really, because it just doesn't feel that relevant. I mean, we're much more focused on what we're doing in the league and what we're doing Champions League, I guess. That Chelsea performance was really pathetic. We don't fuck about with XG, but frankly, there was no XG. We had one shot on target. I think we had one shot off target. And I just don't remember a single moment of, something's happening. Not at any point was there a moment of threat or danger, or even we didn't compete, in my view. It felt like, I don't know, it felt like Spurs. What was the season we went down, Julie? 76, 70 something?
76 to 77.
Yeah, it felt like that, like we just got nothing to offer. But I mean, here we are, we're still in, what are we, fifth or something, sixth? It feels like a bit of a false position given how shit we are. But it's, you mentioned Thomas Frank being outfoxed. I couldn't agree with you more about that. I felt that all they had to do was stick two men on Kudus. And that's it. That's our attacking options out the window.
He's really, to my mind, he's probably really our only decent informed player. One thing that, I mean, I don't know whether we're going to come to this later or now is the moment, but VDV and Spence ignoring Thomas Frank, which was very bad optics. But apparently they have apologised to Thomas Frank.
He's saying that they came in of their own volition this morning and apologised, which made me think, well, they can read social media the same as the rest of us, and they could see how awful that looked, and they thought, well, we've got no option really but to go in and apologise. But in the moment, and that hit social media pretty soon after the end of the match, that looked so dismissive, didn't it? So disrespectful.
Yeah. I mean, you do. I immediately started thinking, has this guy already lost the dressing room, as we used to say in the olden days? Do they not respect him? Was it you who sort of compared him to a supply teacher? I'm not sure. It sounds like a good line from you.
Yes.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't think they ever really got pissed off with Ange, even when things were bad, because he had a certain kind of commanding personality. But I don't think they know what to make of Thomas Frank, or they do know what to make of him and really don't think much of it. Maybe we're looking at it from the outside, but the optics are very bad.
It didn't look great. I mean, it reminds me of when I lost the final of the Drive Edgware Lawn Tennis Club final. I've said final in 1976 when I was about 17. And my dad, I was 5-1 up in the first set, 4-1 up in the second set. I mean, not that I remember every single point. And my dad was watching, and I knew I'd let the old man down. And he came over to me, and what he wanted to do was just give me a little hug and say, look, it's fine. You'll win it next year. And I walked straight past him, and I thought, do you know what? On reflection, that was both ill-mannered and puerile. But then I was 17. Now, those two guys are in their mid-20s, and they're professional footballers with 61,000 people and another several million watching them. And I think all he was telling them to do is go and thank the fans. And maybe they thought, well, the fans are just going to give us a bollocking, so why do we want to do that? But it looked as though they just wanted to have nothing to do with him. And that's why it did, Kev, it looked very personal, didn't it?
It did. I mean, my interpretation of it was that it was them avoiding the fans. I mean, I think it was the most booing I've sort of experienced there for a long time. People were pissed off. There were arguments after, at least in our little section of the South Stand. There was a couple of arguments that I saw as I was desperately trying to get out of the stadium, between Spurs fans. The whole atmosphere felt horrible. And my guess is that was motivating them more than a dismissal of Frank, if you see what I mean. But they deserved it. All 11 players in different ways deserved that booing. And maybe it'll have some sort of impact. I don't know. I worry that I'm again putting too much of a positive spin on it, and that Frank has lost the dressing room. I don't know.
There's no sort of discernible pattern about what we're doing. And granted, we're a few good players light right now. But I don't know, it's like nothing's being strung together. There's no sense of cohesion. And I know we've scored a fair few goals this season, but the more you look at this team, you think, how are we going to score goals against a half-decent team? How? What are we going to do? What is the process? What are the dynamics and the mechanics of scoring goals? Because there's no joined-up play anywhere near the opposition net. Julie?
People are already beginning to work out how to counteract set pieces. There's no brain in the middle who's actually pulling the string. I can't see it. I mean, Kudus, who is a really decent player, I mean, he can't do everything. He needs somebody in the middle who's actually, helping him to do his stuff. And I really don't know what can be done. There is no hope. We're doomed. We're doomed.
Well, yeah, you're probably right. Let's have a little chat about Xavi Simons. To me, he came on early for the dazed and confused Bergvall, quite rightly, I think. And it's a shame, really, because I felt it was a Bergvall kind of game, where you need that energy and that. I mean, the thing about Bergvall is he doesn't ever give a shit about anything. He's going to do what he's going to do. He doesn't go into a shell. He doesn't hide. And that's what they were all kind of doing. Certainly after Chelsea scored, no one put their head above the parapet to say, come on, let's go for it. And I think Bergvall does that. With Simons, I tweeted this a bit earlier today. I think there were 3 moments of quality in the entire match. They all came from Simons. Little, just first-time touches, little passes, and there was one little step over he did. But there were 50 bits of shit from him. And I think that we know he's got that instinctive ability. He's got skill. What he hasn't got is the physicality right now. And you see him running into, huge defenders who are just as quick as him, but twice the weight and twice the strength. He's got no chance, has he? I mean, I think you've got to create a pocket for him where he does those clever little first time passes and little one touches and that stuff. Otherwise, he's no use to us whatsoever.
Yeah. I mean, I think early on in the Chelsea match, I was thinking he's just starting to show what he's capable of. I think, like you say, there were 3 or 4 nice little moments, and I was feeling positive. But what I hadn't noticed before was just how flimsy he is physically. I think you're absolutely right about physicality. He just looked like a little boy, and he was being shoved off the ball so easily. He just had nothing, and you just sort of thought, I'm not sure what else he could have done given his physicality, if that makes sense. It wasn't a failure of decision making. It was just a failure of his build and his strength, and that's really difficult.
Well, I remember saying when he was introduced to the crowd. Was it at the Burnley match? I don't know. I can't remember now. And I remember saying on the podcast that I couldn't believe how slight he looked, how frail he looked. And sometimes when you put your kit on, you look a bit more beefy. He does look a bit more beefy than I imagined, but there's not much of him. I just wonder whether, he's been playing in Germany, which is a fairly physical league, but it's not the same as the Premier League, is it, Julie? It's a whole different level, I think, of power and strength and speed, and he's not up to speed. And you wonder either he's got to acquire the strength and heft you need, because there are plenty of lightweight players, and they find a way so that he can survive, or we've got to play to his strengths, as I was saying a bit earlier, somehow protect him and stop him running at people. He's going to go nowhere with that, and let him do his little touches and feints and passes over the top and what have you. Give him the time and the space to do that.
I don't think a player like that is ever going to flourish in the Premier League these days. He has no heft. And when I first saw him, I did think, because he had that kind of touch, that technique, that skill. I thought, maybe we've got another Modric here. Little guy, but fantastic. Packed a punch, knew where to be, all that sort of stuff. He doesn't seem to have that kind of nous. He doesn't seem to have the nous to get himself out of trouble, I don't think. I mean, you talked about him sort of, running at people, all that stuff. It's like, he's a bit like an autumn leaf, isn't he? I don't know. I hope I'm wrong. I hope he starts eating a lot of spinach and puts on muscle and things like that. But I just think he's
wrong. It's fair to say that Maddison is a pretty lightweight individual. And he does get stuck in, Maddison, but most of the time he's winning fouls. That's his particular skill.
I don't think Simmons has any cunning thing. And if you're a little guy, you do need cunning, don't you?
Yeah. So we've got a problem with Simmons, but I can see a player there, and I don't want to lose faith in him just yet. I haven't got any faith to lose in Mwani. And that sounds a bit disrespectful to him. We've just not seen him. He's been injured, and he's been thrown in because Richarlison is so shit. And he didn't get any service. He didn't get the ball. What do we expect of him, Kev?
I mean, we expect a lot more. Obviously, I think it was difficult because I was thinking about this as I was watching, that Richarlison, apart from actually the Newcastle match, he got the ball a fair bit and did nothing with it, which sort of overcame my sort of trying to be positive about Richarlison, which is that he doesn't get the ball. We don't play to him at all. He just wanders about up front. But in the Newcastle match, he got the ball and didn't do anything. Mwani, again, we didn't use him. If I was Mwani, I'd be incredibly pissed off about that match. He had no chance of doing anything really. So it's hard to say anything about him. I hope he's a better player than Richarlison. If he gets the chances that Richarlison got against Newcastle, that he makes more of them. Let's wait and see on him. I'm beyond that with Richarlison.
First game of the season, he scored 2 really good goals, and you think he's got it in his in his arsenal, if you don't mind me using that word. He's got these skills. He's got some ability. What he isn't, though, is a centre forward, right? He's just not a centre forward. He doesn't hold the ball up. He's a nuisance player. He was a big nuisance in the Europa League final, and he can put himself about, but he's not going to hold it up. He's not going to distribute, not going to do much other than be a fucking nuisance. But that's not really good enough, is it? When, we're struggling to put anything together up top.
Yeah.
You need that guy there to thread it, to control it and play it out to the wings and get into the centre for a header or a touch. He's not that guy.
No, I mean, the worst thing about this season, thinking back, is that Solanke's been out, because that was why he was bought, to be in the middle, to sort of, ask people off the ball, knock in penalties, to be there. Solanke is not Harry Kane. He's not Erling Haaland, but he does a job. When he operates, he's what we need. So I think that that has been probably the crucial blow to our hopes, that Solanke's ankle.
His ball sticks with him, and it doesn't just stick. He's got the technique to force his way in, ahead of a a defender and control it and do something with it, even though he's not the world's greatest finisher. One other thing I want to wang on about, and I'm going to use your wanging on technique here, because I do this every week, is Mikey Moore. Now, he's had a terrible time in Scotland. I've never read so many tweets. It's all from Rangers fans saying what a pile of shit he is. Take him back. He's crap. Anyway, he played quite well in a couple of games, and then he came on in the Scottish League Cup semi-finals. I thought, I'll give that a watch for a few minutes. And he was brilliant. He was absolutely brilliant. Looks like he's got taller and bigger and stronger somehow. And he wanted the ball all the time. He was played more central than we've played him over when we had him around during Angie's time. But his touch and his ability to go past a man and to see a pass, he was playing 30, 40, 50-yard balls and short passes that were cutting through. And I just thought to myself, God, we could use a player like that, really, because if you think of him as a winger, we've got I'm sorry, he's useless. De Beer got some talent, but doesn't impose himself. And this is a kid. He's 18. I know he's 18, but I don't know. I'm seeing a much, much better player there than we've got.
What's the deal, though? Can the loan be ended in January?
Gary of Harlow has suggested that we can take him back after the new year. I don't know, but I mean, Kev, God, I felt, God, we're desperate to get this kid back, because we know one thing: he's committed. You cut him in half, he's like a stick of rock. Say Spurs on it. That's a great old cliche, but he wants to play for Spurs.
Yeah. Well, unlike the 11 or whatever it was, 15 that played at the weekend, I think. I mean, one of the things I was just thinking about, it was when you mentioned Haaland, Julie, that actually City were very, very successful without a number 9, without a centre forward before Haaland. There are ways of playing well and scoring without having that central sort of forward, but you need bloody good midfield players. And so I don't know why I'm saying this, really, because we haven't got those midfield players.
But I was listening to something on the radio just before City played Bournemouth at the weekend. They were saying that Haaland has scored a ridiculous proportion of their goals this season. I think he's got like 25 goals already, for club and country this season. It's insane. And I was just thinking to myself, what if he gets injured? Suddenly they are going to have to revert to what we were just talking about, Kev, which is playing without a really top-notch centre forward. Who are they going to put there? Marmouche or someone like that. But you sense that they have got sufficient options to fill the hole that Haaland would leave. Judy, we're still going with our double pivot, aren't we? We're still going with our double pivot.
I don't understand what double pivot means. Tell me,
Me neither.
please.
I don't know. I just made it up.
Is that Bentalina?
Yes. Yes, it is.
Everyone falls silent.
I'm still working on transition, but apparently they are the double pivot that the double pivot that keeps on failing to deliver. And I think that's fair to say.
I can't even bear to talk about it, but I cannot. When I think of how brilliant the early days of the season were, it was so hopeful, wasn't it? And then suddenly everything just kind of unravels.
Yeah.
What happens? Is it a Spurs thing?
I think somehow, because we're losing at home all the time, it feels worse than perhaps it is. Because overall, we're kind of in the top half. We're in the top 5 or 6. But if we can't win at this bloody brilliant stadium, we keep talking about, it has to be a fortress. It's got to be a fortress. And we're fucking useless there. I mean, we've won 4 in 19 or something. I mean, Kev, we until we make the Lane or the Tottenham Stadium or whatever you want to call it, a place where people are scared to come rather than they're looking forward to coming, we're not ever really going to achieve a great deal, are we?
Yeah, I just thought, Kirsten, this has been going on for years and years and years. And I was thinking about, without being too pretentious, I was thinking about psychogeography and this idea that certain places are cursed. In a way, Peter Ackroyd talks about, I think it's the area around Seven Dials, that no business ever succeeds there. Even businesses that succeed half a mile down the road will never succeed around Seven Dials. And there's this thing that goes from sort of generation to generation. So that's my theory. And I have absolutely no evidence for it. But I think there is evidence for it. I think there's something a bit weak about the club as a whole. I would blame still. I know we sort of joke about blaming Levy and Levy's gone and who are we going to blame now? I think we can still blame Levy for the poor choices, the poor recruitment. So that's there. And that's been a consistent thing for 20 odd years, that we just haven't built up a decent squad. But I think there is something sort of in the soul of the club, which is just this lack of commitment and lack of belief and lack of belief that we can do it, which was slightly overturned by the weirdness of winning the final. But that still feels like that was just the exception that proves the rule, really.
Yeah.
I don't know. I know there's no such thing really as a sort of haunted ground, a haunted bit of North London, but it does feel like that. And
well, I enjoyed the erudition there, Kev, and you lost Gary of Harlow, but still, what the hell?
That's what I was trying to do, actually.
Job done. I know what you mean. It does feel like it's, and I've been watching Spurs since 1970, and we never really, once or twice competed up right at the top of the league, won a few cups, not enough, and there does seem to be this, this is, I guess, the genesis of Spursiness, isn't it? That whatever it is, we can't seem to find, even in the great pot shields or whichever it is, when we came second to Leicester, 2016, 17, whatever it was. So I don't know about you, I still kind of felt like we're not going to do it. We're very, very good, but we're just not. We're not built to win stuff. Julie, you were around as we were when we were quite a good team. 61, you've written about extensively, of course, the double team. That was, I might be wrong, that's the last Spurs team that you thought, they're going to go out and win today. And they're entitled to win because they're the best.
I think I'd probably say there have been moments. The Berkshire team of Ossie and Ricky and Glenn. Well, I suppose the ethos then would, they might not win, but you're really going to enjoy the game. Now,
but those were teams that contained great players, but they weren't necessarily great teams.
Yeah, I mean, the ethos now is, they're not going to win and they're going to play shit football. That's changed. I think the 2016-17 Pochettino era team, I always look forward to watching them, even though I used to get very tense about it because I loved them so much and I never wanted them to lose. The only good thing that has happened to Spurs in recent times is, of course, the Europa League win, which was won by a manager who was absolutely hopeless in the Premier League. Had that, I don't know, there was some magic there, wasn't there? There was the stars aligned in some really peculiar way. Ange manifested that we were going to win that trophy. And maybe this is the fates punishing us for getting rid of Ange. I don't know. Because we couldn't, he couldn't have gone on.
I mean, it is almost, I feel like winning the Europa League was Ange having a eureka moment, discovering pragmatism very late in the day, but he discovered it and it paid off. We were horrible to watch, but, in the final, we were shit, really. But luckily, Man United were more shit. And it wasn't the hardest competition in the world to win, but given that we haven't won anything, it became the hardest competition in the world to win, and we won it. So you'd hope that good feeling, that sense of, triumph would carry over, but maybe letting Ange go was broke the spell.
Oh, I just think forces beyond our control let Spurs win the Europa League. I don't know how it manifested. It was hard to believe that it actually happened.
It was.
Harking back to 1961 and Danny Blanchflower, who said, "You've got to believe." I said there was something that there was something. It was something like that. It was just going to happen. however rubbish we were. I mean, there has been so few moments with Spurs that you've ever had that feeling. I mean, it was to win the Europa League was one of the most incredible accomplishments that I've ever witnessed as regarding Spurs. It was in the stars. It happened, and now reality is set in again. We're Spursy, we're shit.
Well,
This is our fate.
Nothing's really changed, has it? Let's move on from all of this gloom and misery. Have you posed a few questions this week on our WhatsApp group? One that really got me smiling was, what's the most pointless match you've ever been to? Kev, there are so many in our history, but...
Yeah, having posed that question, it's a question to which there are hundreds of answers.
Yeah.
I went to see this is the first thing that came to mind, a pre-season friendly against Aldershot. And we were sitting in the stand at Aldershot. And I remember the ball kept going onto the top of the stand. And every time the ball landed on top of the stand, loads of bits of metal and rust fell on it. And I was thinking, I was living in Woking then, so I hadn't really, I hadn't made a lot of effort to get to Aldershot to watch a meaningless pre-season friendly and get covered in rust. But that was awful. And I genuinely can't remember whether we won or not. I've no idea. I just remember the rust and thinking, why am I doing this? Just half the team were reserves. Half the team were not going to be playing when the Premier League kicked off. So that's one that sort of came to mind. Then pretty much most of the 90s, it felt like we were just horrible. Jerry Francis years, really.
That was horrible. Don't take me back there, please. I'm begging you.
Yeah, so those are my first thoughts, really.
Obviously, you are press box royalty. So you probably only went to half-decent matches or matches that were worth covering. But somewhere along the way, you must have watched some absolute shit.
I can't even say that it was shit, but I can remember probably around 2011, 2012. No, it couldn't have been then. It was just after it. That's right. It was after Bale had been sold. So it was the Europa League fixture very early on, group stage or whatever. And I just remember sitting there and I thought, this is just pointless. We're never, ever, ever going to get out of the group stage. It's just formless, boring. Why am I sitting here? I'm going to have to get into a crowded train at White Hart Lane station after it's over. The halftime food and drink is shit. I just really, the ladies lose are awful. Why am I here? It was just the sort of, I think probably it was the Bale money purchases when we got that slew of players, of whom maybe two, including Ericsson, were any good. And I just thought, this is all pointless. Bale is gone. I never ever want to watch Spurs without Bale these days. It was before Kane. I thought, why do I support this club?
Well, it is, yeah. It's the eternal question, isn't it? Pointless matches, so many, but the one that sticks in my mind was I just, as a young solicitor, just joined Land Rover as an in-house commercial legal advisor, and they'd just given me my first car. And I went from the office, which was in Uxbridge. I drove all the way to White Hart Lane for a match I know it was against Southampton, but it wasn't in any competition of any value. It was one of those made-up competitions in 1985 or something like that. And I thought, I'm going to go. So I went to the match. It was dire. And there were about 8 people at the match. And then when I came out and got back to my precious car, someone had smashed the window and stolen my briefcase. That sort of, that kind of overwhelming sense of, I didn't need to be here. And I've come for this rubbish and I've lost everything. And I've got to go into the office tomorrow and say, I went to Spurs last night and the car got smashed up and I lost everything and I lost some files and stuff. So, and that was kind of the peak pointlessness and lots of things coming together to make that utterly nebulous, So that was it. So we've covered that, and I think it's quite an interesting one. We could come back to that. Lots of pointless matches. Another question you posed Kev, this week was when is it not too early to leave a match? You know, what's a because you said you fancied leaving the Chelsea match after an hour. When is it appropriate to get up and just go?
I mean, I have this sort of, I don't know where it comes from, this thing inside me that says it is wrong to leave before the end. And the only time, I might have said this on here already, the only time I've ever left before the end was when we lost 5-0 to Arsenal. Liam Brady, I think, got a hat-trick. And we were 4-0 down, and when we went 4-0 down, I left. Heard at the 5th goal and I've never left one early since, but I've wanted to. I don't think I've ever wanted to so much as on Saturday. Seriously, I thought we are never ever going to get back into this match. We're not doing anything. I should go, and I think it's only the fact that my daughter was there that I stayed, really. Otherwise, I'd have broken a lifetime of not leaving early. What I don't understand, I never understand, I think, is if we're, I don't know, say 1-0 down and we're attacking and we're creating chances and there's 15 minutes to go and people start leaving. I don't get that, because I guess ultimately I go because I want to see us win, and I'm always hopeful. But yeah, I don't know. But that was the first time for a long time on Saturday that I just thought, no, I could go and I wouldn't feel bad about doing it.
It was a perfect storm of hopelessness and boredom, actually, wasn't it? And I kind of had that same feeling of, what am I sitting here for? I came in all the way from Brighton, I cycled all the way from London Bridge, and I got there all hot and sweaty and horrible, all hopeful. And then after Chelsea scored, I just thought, what am I sitting here for? I'm cold. I can just get on the bike and go home. I did sit it out. I just want to make one small defense of people who leave early, which I usually leave at about 87 minutes for two reasons. One is there's no way we're going to score a much needed goal if I'm sitting there. So I feel like I'm doing a service to the team. The other reason being I'm a bit claustrophobic, and if I wait till the end and start getting stuck in crowds and stuff, I get a bit scared and weird, and anything could happen. Julie, let me throw a scenario at you. Spurs are playing at home. They're losing. They haven't had a shot on target. Let's just talk about Chelsea, the Chelsea match. When would have been a good moment for you to leave, and you could completely justify it?
I probably wouldn't, because I think I could get good prose out of it. I could write a diatribe about how terrible it was.
Yes.
As I did in the dying days of the Poch era, Champions League tie at the stadium against Bayern. I don't know if you remember, but it was an absolute humiliation. I left my seat, but I wouldn't leave the stadium. I walked around the concourse, sort of cheerily greeted the staff, kind of cleaning up and, putting things into plastic bags and things like that, enjoyed the facilities, had some free soap, all that sort of stuff. I wouldn't leave the ground, but I just felt I did not want to watch it. But I thought I must stay.
Some guilty conscience was making you cling on to the aura of the club, rather than, I guess, emotionally you had detached from the idea of we're going to win this or get anything out of the game.
Yeah, completely detached. It was just I definitely felt I cannot leave the stadium. That would be really bad. And so I'll just sort of walk around for a bit, get my steps in, and maybe have put some money Daniel's way, and by buying a plastic cup of wine, getting slightly pissed and feeling morose and marching around thinking how terrible it was. Because of course I can never pronounce the guy's name. Gnabry, ex-Arsenal player.
Gnabry scored 4, didn't he? Yeah, he scored 4.
Yeah, I think it was that. It was the shame, the absolute bitterness and shame that it was an ex-Arsenal player who was doing this to us.
There was nothing good was ever going to come out of that thrashing. That was one of our most humiliating, appalling nights. Let's I just want to have a quick chat about my mate Gary of Harlow. Before every match, Gary of Harlow and his say, they put a tweet up and they say, here's my 11 to face whoever we're playing. And I think, Gary, with all due respect, who gives a fuck? Do you think Thomas Frank is waiting for Gary to post that to get some clues? I think Gary's got a good idea here. I put this guy. Yeah, I'll play Odebear. Yeah, thanks, Gary. Kev, are you doing the thing on? I know you're not as social media obsessed as some, but are you waiting for the hour before the kickoff to check out the 11, and then you are? Yeah,
I am. The thing that, again, I might mention this before, but the thing that's most annoying me at the moment, non-football wise, is they're now releasing the team sheet in number order. Not defence, midfield, attack. So you have to sort of do this juggling about in your head. I've no idea why they're doing that. I know everyone I've spoken to, no one likes it. And it just feels like contempt for fans. I'm sure it's not intended to be. I'm sure someone at a meeting thought it would be a good idea and everyone went, yeah, great. I don't know why they're doing it. They've been doing it. I don't know if it's all season, but they've been doing it for the last few matches. And it just annoys me.
It's infuriating. I've got into the habit of looking at that team sheet and just seeing where's Polinia, where's Bentancur. Fuck it. Let's write this one off.
Where's our double pivot?
Well, moving on. Sorry, go on.
I was just going to say, should we have a moment of silence for the passing of Willie Young?
I can answer that for you. No, Willie, we hated him when he played for us and when he played for everyone else. I was a bit concerned about this thing. Let's have some applause for someone who died. Right now, look, you often get that. On Twitter, someone will say, "My uncle Colin was 79. He went through every match for how many years, and he died this week. So can we all stand up in the 79th minute and give him a round of applause?" Fuck off! I didn't know your uncle Colin. I'm not standing up for him. And that irritates me more than it should, as you can tell. But I don't know who. Sometimes we stand up, we have to celebrate, I don't know, the passing of a great old player. I can kind of see that, but I don't feel like I'm being true to myself when I stand up applauding for a minute. Someone like I never watched play or someone I didn't like. Kevin, it does feel a bit hollow, doesn't it? It's like the football family coming together. Shut up. Give me a break.
I don't know. Clearly, I'm a much nicer person than you.
Yeah.
Or at least I portray being a much nicer person than you. So I would and feel slightly teary and slightly sentimental, even though I never liked the person at all. Even with the Willie Young thing, I felt, because we talked about him, didn't we, a few weeks ago?
We flagged him off good and proper.
Yeah, absolutely hated him.
We killed him. We killed Willie Young. It's our fault. He was only 73. Yeah, he could have had a good few years left. Yeah, nice one, Cyril did for him. There you go.
Let's just pick up on a couple of other things. I was going to go into some irritating X phrases. Everything happens for a reason. I think we've done that. Low key. That's coming in. What's that fucking mean? I low key don't want to do that. What? I legit don't want to do that. What's happened to Kev? What's happened to our beautiful English language?
Well, I haven't heard either of those.
Have you not?
Until now, and now you've really upset me because they're horrible.
Now, a couple of little Gary of Harlow transfer thoughts came onto my feed this week. One was Van de Ven, and we talked about this last week, Julie. Van de Ven in a half and half shirt. Someone had AI'd that. Half and half, Spurs and Liverpool. And someone's saying, should he stay or should he go? What do you make of that?
As I say, somebody was listening to Nice One, Cyril, and they heard me say,
yes,
Liverpool are Mickey, because Virgil, his legs have dropped. Yeah. We must be careful what we say. I mean, back to Willie Young, we do this sort of stuff, can we?
Yeah. Well, we do need to be careful. I mean, also, I hope you're not planting seeds into the minds of, Venkatesham and Thomas Frank about selling Van de Ven, because, that's how it works sometimes. They just listen to us or read Gary of Harlow and things can suddenly change, on a sixpence. The other one that I've seen is Mason Greenwood, who is playing for, forgotten who he's playing for. There's no doubt that he's a very, very good player. I think there's also no doubt that he is revolting or at least he was. I'm a great believer in restorative justice and, redemption, all the rest of it. But the idea of bringing him to Spurs really fills me with a bit of nausea. You're feeling the same way, Kev?
Yes, I'm feeling the same. I will feel the same. Similarly, I think when some terrible human rights abusing Middle Eastern country buys us, just that horrible moral dilemma and just, no, I desperately hope we don't get him. Even if he made a profound difference to the team, I don't want him.
No, I couldn't agree more with that. Yeah. And on the point of, human rights abusing the Middle Eastern countries, I've stated publicly, for the record, that I would get rid of my season ticket. I couldn't, in all good conscience, go and watch my team if we are using the money provided by some ghastly, grim regime, misogynistic, nasty, vile, hand-chopping. Anyway, you get the drift, so I wouldn't go anymore. Julie, we need to move on because we are getting a bit short of time. We've got Copenhagen, I think that's the correct pronunciation, on Tuesday, and then we got Man United just ahead of an international break. Well, we won before the international break last time, of course. What's your take on the quick take on those two matches?
Well, the bad news is that Copenhagen, they're fourth in the table. They score a lot of goals, so they're in their winning ways at the moment. Team's obviously full of enormous Danes, people like that who will sort of, toss Simmons aside like a used boy.
I think they'll just swallow him whole, actually.
Yeah. And of course, because things are the way they are at the moment, United we'll probably lose 3-4-0 to United. Then we'll have the international break. And then, maybe things will change for us. I just had this feeling the other day, despite everything, despite how terrible things are at the moment, that we're actually going to beat Arsenal. I'll leave it there. I did say we'd win the Europa League. So, sometimes
that's quite the finish. And we'll talk about that match next week, I guess, although we'll probably talk about it the week after as well. Yeah, we're going to go to the Emirates and clobber them, I should think. Just a word on that. My daughter's just moved within 50 yards of the Emirates, and she can see it out of her bedroom window. And honestly, I don't know, Kev, you've got two daughters. In that situation, would you just disown her? I'm thinking about it.
Well, I'm not in a position to make any judgment on that because, as you know, someone very close to me works there, which I think that's a whole podcast on its own, really. But I think disown them, yes, definitely.
Yeah. Okay, I'm going to have to put that plan into action. What's your thinking about Copenhagen and Man U?
Copenhagen is the most boring capital city I've been to, and so just because of that, I think we're going to beat them, and good. I think we'll draw against Man United.
All right. For all your lugubriousness, you are actually one of the more optimistic contributors to this podcast, when it comes to Spurs. Julie and I tend to be rather more pessimistic. I don't know. My feeling is Copenhagen, who the hell are they? Come on. How can they beat a team from the capital of this great country? And Man United, I don't know. We always seem to play a team that's found a bit of form. We run into them, but I still think they're a bit crap, to be honest. But then, we're more than a bit crap. Who knows? I'll go for I'll join you on a draw for that one. Julie?
I'll go for a 0-0, but who knows? Might be a Desmond. I do like a Desmond.
That might be a Desmond. You like your Desmonds, don't you? That's okay. Well, look, we will see. All of this will unfold over the next week. Thank you to Julie Welch. Thank you to Kev Acott. I'm Simon Lipson. Give us a follow on Twitter. We are at Nice One Cyril Pod. We've got a Facebook page. We've got Instagram, all that malarkey. And why not subscribe to the podcast on your platform of choice? There we are. That's it. We'll be back next week. Come on, you Spurs. Nice one, Cyril.